Okay, chemists, today we're going to learn about pH calculations. So here's the pH square that I showed you yesterday. And I want to remind you that you're not going to need to memorize these formulas. You're just going to need to know how to use, you'll even get the square. So you just need to know how to use the formulas. So I'm going to jump right in and start with some problems to show you how to use the formulas. So what if they asked you for the pOH if the pH equals 6? So I start with what is given to me. The given is the one with the number. So in this particular case, they gave me pH. And they're asking me to find pOH. So I'm going to find the formula that starts with pH and ends at pOH. So I'm going to go this way, like such. So in this case, the formula becomes pOH equals 14 minus the pH. 14 minus 6. So the pOH in this case is 8. Let's do a different problem. What if they asked you to find the pH if the concentration of H plus is 6.42 times 10 to the minus 5. This is a concentration, so this is relating to how many moles are there in a liter of solution, and that's going to determine the pH. So let me go to my equations. In this particular case, they gave me H plus, and they asked me to find pH. So I'm going to find the arrow that starts at H plus and ends at pH. And it says negative log of H plus. So the pH is going to equal, in this case, the negative log of the concentration of H plus. Remember, those brackets mean concentration. So you're going to go to your calculator and you're going to find the log key. I'm going to find the negative sign, not the minus sign, and I'm going to do negative log of 6.42. Then I'm going to find the exponent key, or the EE key, like we did in stoichiometry, my negative 5. Now I get an answer of 4.192. This makes sense to me because remember, pH stands for power of hydrogen. The power of hydrogen here is 5. It's only going to be exactly 5, though, if this number is exactly 1. So this number is not 1, so it's going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. That makes sense, so I'm going to say that's a logical answer. Let's do another problem. My next problem states, what is the concentration of OH minus if the concentration of H plus equals 9.36 times 10 to the minus 11. So in this case, I'm going to go to my pH square and find the formula. In this case, they've given us H plus, and we're asking us to find OH minus. H plus and OH minus are related to each other. As one goes up, the other goes down. So they are inversely related to each other, and they're related to each other by 1 times 10 to the minus 14, which is the kW for water. So my formula becomes, let's see, we're starting at H plus. They gave us H plus. That's the one that has the numbers, asking us to find OH minus. So I find the arrow that goes from H plus to OH minus, and I see the formula is going to be 1 times 10 to the minus 14 divided by the concentration of H plus. So concentration of OH minus equals 1 times 10 to the minus 14 divided by the concentration of H plus, which is 9.36 times 10 to the minus 11. So in my calculator, I type in 1, and then I'll find the EE key, then the negative sign, 14, and then I'll do divided by 9.36 exponent key or EE key, and then minus 11. Remember, I don't use the number 10. I don't use the time sign. So it's 1 exponent minus 14 divided by 9.36 exponent minus 11. And I get an answer for the concentration of OH minus of 1.44 times 10 to the minus 5. Okay, let's do another problem. Another type of problem could ask us to find the concentration of H plus given the pH. So I go to my square and I'm going to say they're asking me to find H plus. They've given me pH. This time I'm looking for the arrow that points to H plus starting at pH. So that's going to be this arrow. And it says 10 raised to the negative pH. So concentration of H plus is equal to 10 to the negative pH. Now this is actually opposite of log of concentration of H plus. So in your calculator, you can do 10 caret. This is not as correct. If you did 10 caret sine negative 4.36, this is going to give you the correct answer in this case. But let's learn how to use our calculator correctly. What you're going to do in your calculator is you're going to use that logarithmic function. So find the button that says log on it, L-O-G, and you'll see above it, it'll have 10, and then it'll have X as a superscript. That's called the inverse log. So you're going to do shift or second, and then you're going to hit the log key. And it's going to have the 10 there. And I'm going to put negative sign 4.36. And it should look something like this. Like such. And it'll give you an answer when you press enter of 4.365 times 10 to the minus 5 molar. And to round to sig figs for pHs are pretty complicated. So we're not even going to go into that until you take AP Chem or College Chem. So let's do another problem like that, because that one was a little bit tricky. How about if they asked you to find concentration of OH minus if the POH is 3.92. I'll go up to my square and say, okay, they gave me POH. I'm asked to find OH minus. So I'm going to follow the arrow that takes me from POH to OH minus. And my equation becomes concentration of OH minus equals 10 to the negative POH. So in my calculator, I'm going to do shift or second key. Then I'm going to hit the log button and it's going to say 10. And I'm going to type in negative 3.92. And when I press enter, it's going to give me the concentration of OH minus, which is 1.20 times 10 to the minus 4. Now you want to try these on your calculator so you make sure that you know how to use your calculator and you can ask for help if you need to. High school is definitely the place where you want to get calculator help. Don't go to college not quite knowing how to use your calculator. Okay, we're going to do an example of a two-step problem next. Okay, a two-step problem would be if they asked you to find things that aren't next to each other and there's not arrows drawing to each other. So for example, there's no arrow that goes across like this or across like that. So if they asked you to find the concentration of H plus given the POH or the pH given the concentration of OH minus, you would have to do a two-step problem. We're going to find the concentration of OH minus if the pH is 7.42. So in this case, you can go either way. You can say, I'm given the pH, so I know I'm starting here. Do I want to first find the POH and then the OH minus, or do I first want to find the H plus and then the OH minus? You guys can do it either way. For me, if I'm going to start at pH, I'm going to do this easy calculation here to take me to POH, and then I will do this calculation here to take me to OH minus. So that's the path that I'm going to choose. So first thing I do is I say the POH is equal to 14 minus the pH. So one of these is always going to be an easy calculation, which will be 14 minus. And I get 6.58. Now I have the POH, and I'm going to go to the OH minus. So I'm going to do inverse log or second. Remember, get your calculator out and actually do this. Log of the negative sign, 6.58. And my calculator is going to look like this. That's going to give me the concentration of OH minus. And when I press enter, I get 2.68. I get 2.63 times 10 to the minus 7 molar. Remember, the guys that have the brackets around them, that's concentration, and the units are going to be molar. pH does not have any units, so only these two guys will get units. Let's do another problem. Okay, how would we find the POH if the concentration of H plus equals 4.36 times 10 to to the minus 3 molar. Now, let's talk a second about asking ourselves if these are reasonable. So I'm going to look at this and be like, okay, this power of hydrogen here, because this is hydrogen and this is the power, is 3. That tells me that this is an acidic solution. So if it's an acidic solution, my pH is going to be between 0 and 7. My concentration of H plus is going to be greater than 1 times 10 to the minus 7. And my pOH is going to be greater than 7. So those are all the things that I can use to find out which is a reasonable answer. Okay, let's go to our square again. This time we're given H plus and we're asked to find pOH. Again, you can go either way, but for my purposes, I'm always going to pick the easy way that takes me through the pH. So my first step is going to be the negative log of the concentration of H plus to give me the pH, and then I'll take 14 minus the pH. So in my calculator, I type in negative, I hit that log key, 4.36, and then I'm going to do the exponent, not times 10 to the minus 3. I'm going to hit E minus 3. So my calculator will look like this, log 4.36 E minus 3. And when I press enter, it's going to give me the pH. So negative log of 4.36 exponent minus 3 equals 2.36. And then I do 14 minus 2.36, which is the pH, and I get a pOH of 11.64. And all of that is reasonable. So now that we've done an example of each type of calculations, you guys can try this yourself.